Well, welcome back to the channel. Sonic Superstars is now out in the wild for all to see. The game has its reviews out and the players across the world are picking up the game to play. So this leaves the question, is Sonic Superstars any good? The media of course has given the same usual Sonic score in the mid 70s, but if you ask me, I have a different score. To me, this game is an easy 9 out of 10. Now it's not to say that the game is perfect because it certainly has its flaws, but let me break down to you why Sonic Superstars is really the next generation of 2D Sonic games. The gameplay for Sonic Superstars is true and blue to the classic Sonic games, even down to the momentum and movement. As Sonic, you can do the spin dash that you would normally do in most classic Sonic games, speed through some of the stages with ease. Knuckles, like in previous Sonic games, but not the classics, can glide around and also climb up walls, as well as, which can be very useful, accessing areas that most other characters can't. Amy has her hammer smash and similar movement to Sonic, but not as fast. She kind of seems like the character you would pick if you're actually having a tough time with the game, which is fair. And Tails, who I think has the best movement out of everybody, can fly. And as you would expect, that's very useful for some stages, especially for some of the platforming sequences in this game. Now the stages play a really big factor in the movement here, because while you can speed through stages with Sonic or fly through stages with Tails, it doesn't mean you should. This game clearly builds the stages around certain characters being put in mind. Beyond the stages that are actually built for each of the characters, you should choose wisely when you're going through some of these stages what type of movement you prefer. For example, the Lagoon stage is one of the best stages for Knuckles that I've found you can have. You can glide around in the water, thus making it easier to traverse at a better speed. The Press Factory is also clearly a Tails stage that also has an Act 2 that's literally made for Tails, but you can control really well in those tight platforming sequences, and there's tons of enemies and traps to avoid, so using Tails is so satisfying. I think this is such an amazing feature of the game because it allows you to really test out each character and which character fits which stage. The game may be called Sonic Superstars, but it really is just as much about the rest of the cast as it is about the Blue Hedgehog himself. Overall, the movement is very good for each of the characters. The stages. So of course the next big thing a Sonic game needs is amazing stages, and I am pleased to report they're all good, with some amazing stages mixed in. So let's start with my unforgettable stages, like Cyber Station. I found this one to be the prettiest stage out of all of them. You can go through your 2023 style pixel art stage that turns Sonic and friends into a mouse, a jellyfish, even a rocket ship. And he can traverse through really cool platforming sequences that change the formula for 2D Sonic in a way that we've never seen before. I think what I love most about this stage is the color. It really is just everywhere and a part of the stage to see all these bright, beautiful colors. It makes for a pop, and like I said, the pixel renditions for most of the mouses and the jellyfish models are very well done. And again, you can turn into a rocket ship, man. That's pretty cool if you ask me. The Pinball Carnival Zone is another unforgettable stage that features a lot of color as well. The thing with this stage is you can bounce around multiple arcade Vegas style areas and collect bonus rings if you time your releases just right. This stage is very fun to play through, although it can be kind of annoying at times if you pick the wrong character. And that character that I find the most trouble with is Sonic. It's hard to get around the rubbery balls that bounce around and knock you in different areas that you don't really want to go, but that's why you have multiple characters. If you want to get through this stage and collect everything you can possibly collect, maybe Tails is the best option. Bridge Island Zone is also on the list of amazing stages. It's pretty simple. It's a newer version of Green Hill Zone with a couple of twists. The nice background that features the water, the lush green as well. It's, again, just Green Hill Zone with a twist. Now the twists are, you can go up the waterfall, you can get through these loop-de-loops with way more speed than possible with the charge-up feature that they have that counts down from like 8 to 0, and it's also just a really great time. Every Sonic game has to have the initial stage be a very replayable experience, in the same way that City Escape for Sonic Adventure 2 is so replayable. Now I do have one more stage that I think is one of my absolute favorites. Frozen Base Zone Act Tails. Man, this stage is great. The way it's perfectly designed for Tails to avoid so many obstacles truly takes advantage of his movement. And visually, it's such a pretty looking stage. I cannot speak enough about the art style in this game. Now, there is one bonus stage that's not really a stage, but it is something that's in the game. The end credit stage is just jaw-dropping with how beautiful it is. Sonic running through the night sky with the stars and the sea in the background. It truly feels like a 10 out of 10 ending, and honestly, I felt really satisfied. It felt like I had just completed a movie that I was a really big fan of. In my opinion, this might be the best ending to a Sonic game I've ever seen. It's a beautiful, serene environment that really allows you to kind of reflect on the amazing experience you just had. The music and soundtrack. So, Sonic games are notorious for having some of the best music in all of video games. At this point, Sonic games are expected to blow people away with a killer soundtrack, so how does this game's soundtrack stand up? Not bad, but not mind-blowing either. I think the music is perfectly fine. I mean, there's some of my favorites, including Bridge Island Zone, the opening theme, and Carnival Zone feels really good too, but none of these tracks will leave you jaw-dropped or anything. They're just good tracks. In my opinion, they get a passing grade. It's not exactly an A+ or anything, but it gets the job done and really does make you feel like this music is unique to this game. Although, like I said, these songs are not going to set any records anytime soon. I will say, the highlight for me is also the end credit scene that mashes all of the game's sounds together in a really beautiful way to, like I said, drop your jaw at the end of the game with this night sky. I mean, seriously, I love that end credit stage. What a beautiful way to end the game. Enemies and boss fights. The enemies in this game are very, very well done here as well. There's a lot of variety and new fun designs. I actually felt excited to see which enemies I would be facing with every zone change, and I cannot say I felt that way about any other Sonic game really. This has to be their best work for variety of enemies in a Sonic game, at least for 2D. The bosses are also really good, and there's a bit of a challenge to them. I mean, the early ones are pretty easy, but man, once you get into the game, they do get progressively harder. Utilizing the Chaos Emeralds is very key here. Fang's boss fight I felt was super sick, and how cool is Fang, by the way? Give that man a round of applause for being awesome. Eggman also gives you plenty of hell, especially in the Egg Fortress boss fight where you literally have to be perfect to clear it. I guess there's just something about Sonic games and being tedious that have really rung a bell in recent months. Because Sonic Frontiers also had a very, very difficult last update to it as well. But seriously, the boss fights in this game are rewarding, and my favorite personally is the Fang boss fight where he repairs his ship mid-fight as you avoid fire and obstacles, and Eggman even reversed time to fight you twice. Each fight is harder than the last, and this game gives you plenty of challenges. I can admit I raged a decent amount, but after clearing the stages, it felt like a very rewarding experience. So like I said, the boss fights are pretty good in this game. Story and characters. All of the characters here are very, very fun. My personal favorite is Fang, but he's a non-playable character. But they're still so fun to see in this game and sometimes use. The story is also very cleverly adapted to the game. It's nothing crazy, but you can see Trip at moments feel scared, and Amy shows up and shows Trip kindness. Trip ends up being a part of the Sonic team, which is also a really nice touch because that answers the question of who was the missing character on the start screen for Sonic Superstars. Eggman and Fang do their parts well as villains, and I said they both give you hell, but the overall story feels like a summer breeze that's so refreshing. It's not too complicated, it's not nothing you've never seen before, but the best way I can describe it, it's like if you just came out of the shower and you have that feeling of being fresh. It's a nice feeling, something that you've experienced before many times, but still, it's always a nice feeling. Hopefully that made sense. Also, we learned more about Trip. She's called Trip the Sungazer. Obviously, we knew there was a fifth playable character, but we thought it might be Shadow, so sorry Shadow the Hedgehog fans, but seeing Trip as the playable character makes all too much sense the second you start playing the game. The multiplayer. There's a decent multiplayer, nothing to write home about. However, it does feature a robust online customization. You can go through the story and collect these Sonic coins, and you can end up customizing your robot or metal character of whoever you're making into a really cool thing. There's even Nights into Dreams, if you can believe that. I mean, check this out. Nights into Dreams is literally in the game, which is such a beautiful touch because if you're a longtime Sonic fan, you know that Nights into Dreams has always had an Easter egg in Sonic games. As for the actual gameplay itself, it's fine. I mean, it's nothing crazy. You do some challenge modes. Some of them is collecting stars. Some of them is zapping people with electricity, which is kind of cool too. It's an add-on feature. It's really nothing remarkable, but it does the job as an online mode. The real cool part about the multiplayer is the customizable options. By the way, with this Nights into Dreams teaser, is it a teaser or is it just an Easter egg? Because they've been talking at Sega about remastering some of their old IP. In any case, who knows, but seeing Nights into Dreams into Sonic is really cool. Final conclusion. Sonic Superstars features a delight of new everything, from the characters to the stages to the art design. It really really takes the 2D Sonic formula and brings it into the present in a way that we haven't seen before. If you are a fan of 2D platforming, this should be an easy game for you to get for the holidays, and a special congrats to the studio behind it, Arzest. They did a magnificent job, and I would not be surprised to see them handle 2D Sonic games going forward. My final thought is this: the game came to be when Naoto Oshima and Takashi Iizuka had a drinking game on Zoom back during the pandemic. It's so interesting to see how this game came to be. A drinking game led to Sonic Superstars, and in a lot of ways, that's so fitting. This game, obviously you can play alone, but it's much better with friends, and that's kind of the point of the game. Yes, Sonic is the superstar in this game, but so is Knuckles, Tails, Amy, and even Trip. You combine that with Eggman and Fang being really awesome, and you get a complete 2D experience here. I give Sonic Superstars a 9 out of 10. But thank you to all who watched this video. Please hit that like and subscribe button for more content. Hope to see you guys in the next video, but until then, peace and enjoy Sonic Superstars.